No one is talking about America's disappearing middle class. Are you still part of it? Am I? It was once the backbone of the American dream, a promise of security and opportunity. But today, the dream feels like it's slipping away from millions of people. And after spending days diving deep into research to figure out exactly how we got here, I've uncovered some eye-opening truths about the middle class. It's shrinking size, rising costs, and financial pressures. I mean, is the middle class disappearing faster than we even realize? Are you still a part of it? By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where you stand. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I'm free and you're important to me. The middle class in the 1970s and 80s was seen as the foundation of American prosperity. Being part of that middle class meant financial stability. You could own a home, send your kids to college, afford healthcare, and even take a vacation or two per year. In 1971, 61% of Americans considered themselves middle class, according to Pew Research Center. A single breadwinner could often support an entire household thanks to strong manufacturing jobs and union protections that ensured steady wage growth. Think about it. One income was enough. And it wasn't just about having enough, but it was about feeling financially secure. Remember that point. Fast forward to the 2010s and 2020s, and that picture is dramatically different for middle class Americans. By 2019, only 51% of Americans were classified as middle class, and that number continues to shrink. Wages have stagnated, with the average household income increasing by only 16% over the last 50 years, while costs for essentials like housing, education, and healthcare have skyrocketed. Housing prices alone have surged 190%, and college tuition ballooned by 264%. And in major cities like San Fran and NYC, a middle-class lifestyle now requires an annual income of $300,000 or more. Right, I was shocked too. And for context, only 5.1% of Americans make that much. Today, many middle-income earners live paycheck to paycheck, barely scraping by as they try to juggle rising expenses with stagnant wages. One unexpected medical bill or job loss could put them right over the edge. So what happened? The decline of the middle class can be traced back to several factors. It's not just one thing, y'all. The boom of the post-war years gave rise to globalization, the decline of manufacturing jobs, and technological changes that replaced well-paying blue-collar work. Meanwhile, income inequality widened, with the top 1% capturing much of the economic growth. And wages didn't keep pace with productivity, leaving workers behind by failing to compensate them appropriately, even as they produced more and more over the decades. The disappearance of the middle class wasn't just a result of economic shifts. Governmental policies played a significant role. In the 1980s, tax policies began to favor the wealthy, as we know, with major cuts to income taxes for the highest earners. For instance, the top marginal tax rate was slashed from 70% in 1981 to 28% by 1988. This shift funneled the wealth upwards, benefiting corporations and the rich, while leaving the middle class with, say it with me, stagnant wages. You see themes here? And deregulation of key industries like finance and energy created an environment where large corporations thrived at the expense of worker protections and wage growth. And reduced government spending on social programs like affordable housing and healthcare only compounded the problem. Programs that once provided a safety net for middle-class families were cut, increasing their financial vulnerability. The result? Fewer protections and opportunities for middle-income households who now found themselves having to shoulder more of the cost of essential services. And on top of the governmental policies, social factors accelerated the middle-class decline as well. Changing demographics and work patterns meant fewer jobs offering stable, long-term employment with benefits. And the rise of the gig economy and contract work only made the situation a bit more precarious as it pertains to employment, leaving fewer Americans with access to things like retirement plans, health insurance, and job security. Meanwhile, as if that was not enough, the burden of student debt skyrocketed. In the 1970s, college tuition was indeed manageable for middle-income households, averaging $394 for public tuition and $1,706 for private. Comparing that to the 2020s, The average college tuition for a public institution is $10,560. In private, $37,650. The rising cost of education has made it harder for younger generations to do the things our parents did with ease, like buying our first home or starting a family. While the middle class was once supported by a robust economy and governmental policies that promoted shared prosperity, today's middle class finds themselves navigating a much less forgiving landscape, with governmental, economic, and social circumstances seeming stacked against them. While the challenges facing the middle class are daunting, there's no two ways about it, there are a couple impactful steps you can take to avoid slipping out of the middle class. Invest in your financial literacy and diversify your income streams. In an economy where the wages are stagnant, but the cost of living keeps rising, relying on a single source of income is becoming increasingly more risky. Learning how to manage money, invest in stocks and real estate, and create additional sources of income can provide a buffer against economic shocks. By diversifying income and building resiliency, individuals can navigate the pressures and uncertainty of today's economy with more security and control over their financial future. And as for whether or not you're still in the middle class, the US, the middle class household with a family of two earns between $44,800 and $134,400, with a family of four earning between $67,200 and $201,600. So going back to our initial question, are you in the middle class? If your income falls within these ranges, you may technically be middle class. But the feeling of being part of this group often comes down to more than just the numbers. It's about whether you can comfortably cover your expenses while planning for your future and enjoying the security the middle class wants guaranteed. If you're constantly juggling bills or struggling to save, you may be middle class on paper, but feeling far from it. The most important thing you can do right now to build financial resiliency is invest in your financial literacy. So watch this video here where I share 15 years of honest money advice in less than 25 minutes.